There are now more unmarried couples than married couples in Australia. In 2001, about 55% of women aged over 18 were married. By 2019, it was below 50% and reached 48.2% by 2021. Yet 1 in 7 Australian adults now has a de facto. Our question for the jury: is marriage an outdated institution? Joining us is Lyle Shelton, National Director of the Family First Party, and Jana Hocking, dating advice columnist at news.com.au. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this evening. Lyle, we'll start with you. Why don't you think marriage is an outdated institution despite those statistics?
Yeah, look, I think as a society, we've decided it's certainly not outdated. Even gay people want to get in on the act. And of course, Albo, the Tory fighter, he's lining up to get married. Look, I think if we really care about the next generation as a civilisation, I think as we think more deeply about what marriage does, we will want to make sure it's something that we promote in culture and in public policy, because it provides three key benefits. Monogamy, it's two people who come and vow together to not cheat on each other. That's good for themselves and for their mental health. So it's good for the couple. It's good for children. It makes a safe environment for children. If children know that they're in a secure family environment, that is good for them. It provides gender complementarity for kids. Children need both the love of their mother and father to socialise them, for them to grow up to be good citizens. And it provides permanence. Permanence and stability is key for children and for their development. We know that studies show that up to 87% of youth in detention, in jails, come from families where or social situations where they don't have the benefit of a married mother and father in the home. So it's, the prison population, the youth crime that we're seeing, drugs, teenage pregnancy, all those sort of things can be mitigated by good marriages.
Right. Jana, do you agree? Do you think all of those points can only be mitigated if two people are married?
I feel like I just stepped back to the 1950s, so thank you for the time walk. I could not disagree more. As someone who's come through divorce, but from a family who stayed together for the kids, I can tell you that just because a man and a wife is married doesn't mean that's a safe home or it's a comfortable home or they're not going to school deeply traumatised from the fights they've seen the night before. Or we think that marriages that stay together because of the rights of the family, because that's what we're told to do, because society tells us we need to stay married. We set our vows which are deeply toxic, deeply sexist. We need to stay together. That's keeping families more often than not in really toxic, scary situations. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it helping society. No, I think people get married because that's what we're told to do. We're brought up with Cinderella, Snow White, you get married, you have kids, and there are no problems ever. We're finding through divorce rates and the decline in marriage that that's simply not the case and that marriage is simply not working.
Well, don't 50% of all marriages end up in divorce? But Lyle, do you take that point that why do you need to get married, realistically? In this modern era, why?
Yeah, just because we've had some difficulties in recent history with marriage, and that doesn't mean we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. And certainly I would never advocate that anyone stay in a toxic marriage relationship. Of course not. There should be no violence, coercive control, that sort of thing. But we know the statistics show, and perhaps not in more affluent areas, but certainly where marriage breaks down, it really does affect the lower socio-economic part of society. Right. Richer people can survive divorces and break up better, not always.
That's simply not true.
But what we do know is that the statistics show that where people simply cohabitate and don't take the next step to make that vow and that solemn promise to one another, that if they have children, the chances of them breaking up is 5 times higher than a married couple. That's just what the research and the statistics show.
A lot of people are in de facto relationships.
They are.
And that's another reason why marriage is so outdated, because de facto you just have to live together for 2 years. And you
get the same
all
right.
the rules. But let's look at the vows.
But the statistics show if you do that, though, that the chances of you breaking up before the child is 3 years old.
Jana,
look, you can throw labels around, Jana.
But you just interrupted me when I was talking and you were throwing to me.
Jana, what do you think about that?
I think let's look at the vows for a second. They are for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, love, cherish and obey. This was marriage was designed for men to carry on their lineage. That's facts. There's no denying that. Marriage was also created because women weren't allowed to have jobs. Women weren't allowed their own finances. They weren't allowed to start bank accounts. Yes, marriage was needed back then. Yes, families were needed back then. Men did find it super important to keep their last name going. And we find that in the vows. Like 9 times out of 10, the woman takes the man's last name. That is, you say it now and it is deeply outdated, but you say, no, but don't stay in the marriage if it's, dangerous or unhealthy. But why are we saying these vows then? Because these vows mean nothing, and that's what a marriage is.
I want to go to the jury, see how they're feeling about this. Lily and Hugo in the middle there, you're actually engaged. Congratulations. So, Lily, you don't believe then that it's an outdated institution getting married?
I don't think at all. I think it's a lovely thing for a couple to do. To show their commitment to one another. We're definitely traditional in our way of thinking, so I suppose that also adds to it. But I don't think it would change much for us, but it's that principle of commitment to each other.
Yeah, it's that solemn symbol,
exactly.
The gesture.
Yeah.
David, Andrew, what's been your experience with marriage?
Look, I obviously married my ex-wife in 2014, to the exclusion of all others. But, as time goes, kids come in, things change, people get unhappy, and then the decision was made, obviously, to separate and then go through the proceedings. So for me, marriage was quite an institution. We got a church marriage, all those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if people are unhappy and there's a push to try to keep you together from the outside, that's not going to work. And obviously, we've parted ways mutually. It's been okay since then, but that's been my experience with it. I mean, I wouldn't force anything on another person. But again, if people want to get married, that's very much their choice.
All the best to them, absolutely. Yeah. All right, well, look, we're going to throw it to the jury now and get their verdict. You've both had your say. Jurors, the question is marriage an outdated institution?
I think it's beautiful. Why not celebrate?
Time is up. What is the jury's verdict? Okay, we've got 2 yeses and the rest of you voted no. So the majority of you say that no, marriage is not an outdated institution. Cassandra, why no?
I just think it's a commitment for people. I know that there are lots of de factos. Also, I do take issue because the thing is, Jana, from a Jewish perspective, our vows are different. So, people get married in all cultures and they have for thousands upon thousands of years. So I think it's just a way of it's a commitment not just between the 2 people, but also for society, which is why I support, gay men getting married and gay women.
Jana, what do you think about
why does it have to be marriage? And when you look at what marriage stands for in history,
but I don't see that. For me, and for people I know, religious and non-religious people, it is a commitment. You don't have to be religious to want to get married.
So why does it have to be marriage? Why can't you have a civil ceremony? Or why can you
But
not
that is a
commit
form
to
of
each other?
marriage. It is a form of commitment. Yeah. So, but going
So
before
you
a judge or whatever.
You don't necessarily, like what marriage stands for, which in its...
Well, I think marriage, personally, for me, stands for good things. And sure, not all marriages will work out. And certainly in my culture, divorce is, allowed. Always has been. So there's no black mark against somebody because they're divorced. But but whether you doesn't matter if you go before a priest or a judge. It's a commitment.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting those statistics say that not many people are saying I do, but yet obviously it still means a lot to some people. So, and that's absolutely fair enough. Jana Hocking and Lyle Shelton, great to be with you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.